It is Maginoni, and here is the stack of everything else I got. Well, almost everything, but... Okay, let's start off with Thunderbolts number 2. As expected, given though they tried to make it look like Moonstone was dead, surprisingly she was still alive after she got the stone removed from her. And then they convinced the girl to put it back. And, of course, after that happens, they get attacked by the creatures in the cocoon-like things. Now, I was just thoroughly disappointed. I mean, it's like the art was, like, you can tell maybe they're trying, but it just was horrible. Like, this page here, it's like, it's a mess. It's like, this is not how a battle unfolds type thing. And you can tell they're just trying to fit as much in the page as possible, and without really even doing a good job with it. And I don't know. It's like, to me, it wasn't thrilling, I guess you can say. It didn't have the sense of danger behind it. Maybe there was a little bit of humor added as two get thrown out of the building, and Atlas has to go get them. And it's like, as expected, though, at the very end, you have special guest stars, and it's kind of like Marvel is just so desperately trying to push the Inhumans as something that people want to read, and like when you look at the sales numbers, it's just not happening. So I don't know. I mean, I give them a B for trying, but at the end, I'm like, this just wasn't a strong book. I don't even... the way I feel about it right now, I'm pretty much ready just to cancel it. I really don't think I'll buy it any more of these. Alright, next up is All New X-Men Apocalypse Wars. Now, this is the weird thing about this Apocalypse Wars. Now, if you remember through most other miniseries or special events, there's usually like an order or a sequence you have to read these books and they all connect. But to me, it looks like Marvel said, well, we have the X-Men movie coming out with Apocalypse. We have to do a crossover thing, big event, Apocalypse Wars. And everybody threw out different ideas. And they couldn't decide. So they just let everybody do whatever they wanted. Like for an example, you have X-Men in the future. You have X-Men in the past. You have X-Men in the present. And there's 3 different storylines that don't seem to really be connecting whatsoever. And I guess you can say on one hand that's great because, if you weren't reading Extraordinary X-Men, all you were doing is just reading All New X-Men, you're fine. You don't need to know what's going on in the other books. You don't have to buy the others. So on that side of things, that's a real welcome relief. On the other side, it's kind of like you're reading 3 separate stories that are supposed to be a big event, and they don't feel like an event at all. So now I'm like, what's the point of this? Other than having 3 different apocalypse-themed storylines. Now, that being said, I mean, the art is fantastic, but... Well, I mean, not fantastic, let's be honest. It's good, but not that great. But the story is just... Like, it's kind of like, for me, it doesn't really matter. It's, you have Kid Apocalypse and Beast, and they're separated and lost in time, but it's kind of like Beast really doesn't have a voice in this book at all. Kid Apocalypse is just going around for the ride, and it doesn't have a sense of urgency. It doesn't have a sense of furthering, Kid Apocalypse and his connection to Apocalypse, they throw his image every now and then, and they hints at sometimes of the power that he has, but at the same time, it's not really giving us anything new or insightful, and I guess that's where my problem is with this book. It's just not what I would consider a strong tie-in. It seems like something that somebody threw together at the last minute because they realized that there's an X-Men movie coming out. All right, Guardians of the Galaxy. the interesting thing about this book for me was the black vortex thing. It gave it for those of you who don't know, it gave there was like the mirror that gave people who wanted it enhanced abilities. Well, apparently there's a timer on this thing, so to me it was like a way that they can depower these characters, so they're they don't have to deal with cosmic, super powered beings any longer. Because while in some cases like Gamora, that's very bad, in terms of being OP, but in terms of the Angel, it's kind of like, really, it's the Angel. What's he gonna do? So eventually he's gonna get depowered and he'll be back down to normal like everybody else. The basic thrust of this story though is they're looking for somebody who's been in prison, and it's a companion of theirs, and it's okay. If you've only read Guardians of the Galaxy, that storyline could make sense. But if you read, for an example, I'm just throwing this out in left field, it doesn't mean anything. But let's say if you read Angela, Queen of Hell, you would kind of wonder why Angela is in this book when she was Queen of Hell and now she's captured by the Badoon. So it's like that kind of a scenario. And it just left me scratching my head. Like, how did this happen? Did one series of books fail so poorly that they just forgot about it? I don't know. The art's good, though. There's some good writing in between, but I wouldn't say this is the strongest book by far. If anything, it's just average, and talking about it any more than just what I said, it's probably giving it more credit than it deserves. Okay, The Wacky Raceland. Alright, this book was tripped out. Now, for those of you who don't know, Hanna-Barbera had a cartoon series called The Wacky Racers. Every week, they had all these different characters like Penelope Pitstop and Dick Dastardly and Muttley, and I forgot the other ones, but those are the two that I can remember offhand. And they would always race. There's always cheating going on, and Dick Dastardly and Muttley always lost. That was the key thing. Now, this book basically takes that basic concept, throws in Mad Max, throws in mutant monsters, or mutant wasteland, and much more dangerous cars. Now, this book kind of gives you a origin of sorts for Penelope Pitstop, and there's somebody later on at the end. So you kind of get an idea of how these racers came into this race, but it doesn't go into much more details than that. This book is very busy with art. I think it's actually pretty decent, but I think this is one of those cases where it's going to be very polarizing because there's just so much going on in every page. And to me, it looks very chaotic. But I think it fits the basic theme of this book. Whether or not it's going to succeed in the long run, I don't know. I'll probably get... I'm on the fence of this one. Scooby-Doo Apocalypse was great. Wacky Raceland, I'm 50-50 on it. I don't know if I'm going to get the next one or not. And basically, all this is just an introduction to the story. And then Penelope Pitstop, I would imagine, would be probably one of the more popular characters. So that's why they focus pretty much on her. But, it's maybe a little bit above average, but not the greatest. Grizzly Shark versus Sea Bear is always amusing to me. It's just, the basic concept of sharks living in the forest and bears living in the ocean, and sharks can't live in the ocean because they live on land, and they're killing everybody because they're sharks. And now finally we get to see the epic battle between the two different deadly creatures. And I don't know. Call me somebody who just wants to hurt themselves because I'm a fan of Sharknado, but this to me is just that basic theme of Sharknado where it just takes the craziness and throws things out there that would be normally impossible, and and it just makes it fun. You know, the art's not the greatest, but it works extremely well for this book. I mean, the way the characters are, the violence is just insane. The blood is everywhere, and I mean, there's a lot of funny little moments too, which if you do pick it up, I don't want to spoil because there's a lot of little things in here, and I really enjoy it. It's just a fun read. It's very distracting. You know, it's like you're going through your stack of superhero books, and you're just, you're feeling either disappointments, or you're like wow, that was such a great story. It was really meaningful, and you just want to read something light before you continue. Boom, there you go. No thought process whatsoever. Blood and carnage and death. That's all that's in there, but it's done in a fun way. Anyways, those are some reviews for you. If you have any comments or questions, let me know. Like, share. I still have to do my Gundam review. I've been promising that for a long time. But I watched Gundam Origin 3, and fantastic. So I wanted to include that in there. And we'll have some more stuff later. So like and share. And until next time.